Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's lesson, we'll be diving deeper into Angular's core concepts, components and templates by building out our task manager application. And that's not all. We also make our application look great by adding Bootstrap, a well-known CSS framework. This will help us style our application without needing to write a lot of custom code from scratch. So let's do a quick recap. So what are components and templates? The TypeScript class handles the logic while the HTML template defines the view. As we build our task manager application, we'll see how each piece comes together, and we'll keep improving it step by step. But before that, let's give it some visual appeal by integrating Bootstrap. Bootstrap makes styling much easier by providing pre-built components and grid systems. It will allow us to focus on the logic of our application while still making it look clean and responsive. And let's head over to Visual Studio Code. We already explained some of the Angular's project structure here in the previous video. And now let's install Bootstrap by typing npm install Bootstrap and press enter. And we've installed Bootstrap using npm, and now we need to add it to our project by adding Bootstrap style to our Angular JSON file. We're including the Bootstrap CSS file here, which will allow us to use Bootstrap styles across the entire application. And I will just copy the correct Bootstrap style path here in the style section. And we're going to do the same down here. And now Bootstrap is ready to be used. Next, let's create the first component that we will need. We'll call the component task list component. And let's go ahead and clear the terminal and use ng-generate component, and then let's create component folder slash the component name, which will be task list component. Now, one helpful thing to know is that we can also use shortcuts to generate components and other things like services using the Angular CLI. In this case, instead of typing ng-generate component, we can simply type ngg for generate and c for component and press enter. And there you go. We just generated our first component. And task list component.ts, the logic of the component. Next, we have the task list component HTML. This is the template where we'll be displaying the task list. Now let's switch back to the TS file and start coding. First, let's create a variable called tasks that will hold our tasks, basically. And this will equal to an array that will contain our items. Each item in the array is an object with a property called name, and the value of the name property is the actual task. While holding Alt and Shift together, you can press the down arrow to duplicate lines of code like this. And now we can change only the property values. Let's enter something related, like develop task manager application. And for the third one, let's do test the application. Now let's explain what we did here. Tasks is a variable that holds a list or array of items. Think of an array like a grocery list You have multiple items like milk, eggs, and bread that are stored in one place. So here, instead of groceries, we have tasks that we want to manage in our application. Each item in the array is an object with a property called name, and the value of the name property is the actual task. To make this even more understandable, like let me give you another example. Let's remove this for a second and say we are not managing tasks, but instead we are managing a playlist of songs. It would look something like this. And as we build this application, things will become much more understandable and easy. This is still only the beginning, so let's revert back to our task list that we created before. Now it's good to know why is this array important. Well, this array will be used in our components template to display the tasks dynamically. We will loop through each task in the array and show it on the page. This makes our application much more flexible and data-driven. Before we start working on the HTML part, let's do a quick recap. So array, a collection of items, in this case tasks. Object, that's each task that is represented by an object, which can hold multiple properties like name, due date, and completed. And we'll loop over this array to display each task in our application's template. Now I will copy and paste the HTML part since we are using Bootstrap, but I will explain what's going on. First, we wrap everything in a div with the class container empty-4, and container is a Bootstrap class that adds a responsive padding to our form, ensuring it's properly aligned on the page. So empty-4 adds some margin on top, creating space between the header and the form. So think of this container as a box that holds our elements neatly together. It ensures the layout looks clean and professional. So now we are not going to go deep into Bootstrap nor HTML since this is Angular beginners course. We will have other courses that focus on the HTML and CSS as well as other frameworks like Bootstrap. In Angular, we use the ng4 directive to loop over a list of items and display them in our template. And let me walk you through what's happening here. The UL class list group, this UL element, which stands for unordered list, acts as the container for our task items. We've added Bootstrap's list group class to style it as a list with proper spacing. Then the li on line 4, which holds the ng4, this is where the magic happens. The ng4 directive tells Angular to repeat the li element for each task in our tasks array. Essentially, what's happening is ng4 loops over the array and creates a list item for every task. And let task of tasks, this part of the directive is where we define the variable task that will hold each individual task object from the array during each iteration. As you can see on line 4, inside the li, we have the double curly brackets, and inside we have task.name. So inside each list item, li, we display the name of the task using Angular's interpolation syntax, which is represented by the double curly braces, and this ensures that the task name is dynamically inserted into the list. So with this setup, Angular will automatically loop through our tasks array and render each task as a list item. Next thing we will do now is display our component that we just created. But first let's serve this project by typing ng-serve into the console and press enter. Our project compiled successfully, and now let's take a look in the browser. As you can see, Angular already provide us with some demo content. So let's get back to our Visual Studio Code and clean up the app component, since we don't need this demo content. And basically you can remove everything here except the router outlet. So let's remove everything. The router outlet tag is a placeholder where Angular will load the components based on the current route. Think of it as a dynamic area in your application that changes depending on the URL. Whenever you navigate to a different page or routes, Angular will load the appropriate component into this router outlet. For example, if you have a route for a dashboard and another for a user profile, Angular will replace the content in router outlet with the corresponding component when you navigate between these routes. So it's like saying display the content that matches the route right here in this spot. But we won't use it now, so let's just comment it out. What we're going to do instead is insert our task list component here by using the task list component selector, so we can display it in the browser. And as you can see here, we are displaying the component, but we are not displaying the task list, and that's because we forgot to save our component HTML file. So let's go ahead and save it. Now open the browser again, and there you go. That's our task list component. Now that we have a basic task list, let's create a form component where users can add tasks. Press Ctrl and C together to stop our development server, so we can generate another component. Let's use the Angular CLI again to generate a new component by doing ng-gc. And let's add it in the same components folder, and let's name the component task form. Press enter. Okay, component is done, and as you can see here in the Explorer, we have our new task form component ready. Now let's open the task form HTML and replace the default content with our task form, which I will copy and paste into the component, since we are not going to focus on the HTML a lot. In short, this HTML code creates a simple form inside a Bootstrap container for adding a new task. It includes a labeled text input field for entering the task name and a button to submit the form. The form is styled with Bootstrap classes, ensuring a clean, responsive layout. Now let's get back to our application component and add this task form that we created above our task list component. This will display our task form above our task list. Let's now start our development server again by typing ng-serve in the terminal. Press enter. Now when compilation is done, open the browser, refresh, and as you can see, we have the task form as well as our task list. In this lesson, we combined two powerful concepts, Angular components and Bootstrap styling, to make our task manager application both functional and visually appealing. We've created a task list component, we added a task form, and styled everything using Bootstrap. This is just the beginning. As we move forward, we'll continue to add more features to our application, like handling task submission and managing state, as well as following best practices. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.